These are the 3.2 video notes, part 1. All right, so we already talked about parallel lines. Parallel lines are just two lines that do not intersect. Once again, these little triangles show us that those are parallel lines. A transversal, so the word transversal is the line that goes through the parallel lines. So line Z here would be the transversal. Interior angles. Interior angles are the angles that are on the inside of the parallel lines. This is the interior, and this is the interior. The exterior is the angles that are on the outside of the parallel lines. So this is the exterior out here and out here, 16, 17, and 10, and 11. Then we have acute angles are congruent. So angles that appear to be acute are angles 11, 12, 15, and 16. They're all congruent because they're all acute. So acute means less than 90 degrees. So I can see this one's less than 90, this one's less than 90, this one's less than 90, and that one's less than 90. So all of these angles are congruent. They're all the same measure because they're all acute angles. Then we have obtuse angles that are congruent. Angles that appear to be obtuse are angles 10, 13, 14, and 17. And they are congruent because they're all obtuse. So here's an obtuse angle, obtuse, obtuse. All of these angles are congruent to each other because they are all obtuse angles. Then we're talking about supplementary angles in parallel lines. So supplementary, remember, supplementary means they add to 180. Supplementary adds to 180 degrees. So any acute and any obtuse angle are going to be supplementary in a set of parallel lines cut by a transversal. So for instance, he's obtuse and this one is acute. So they're going to be supplementary. They will add to 180. So all my acute angles are the blue ones, and all my obtuse angles are the red ones. I can say an obtuse angle plus an acute angle is equal to 180 degrees. So in this instance, a red angle plus a blue angle will equal 180 degrees. You have an acute plus an obtuse, they equal 180. Okay, let's kind of practice that a little bit. Let's see. So use the diagram of the two parallel lines cut by a transversal below to determine whether the angles are congruent and supplementary. All right, so in here you don't see those little triangles on here, but it says right here two parallel lines. So we know that they are parallel. If you want, you could always add in the little marks to show that they are parallel. All right, so I'm going to color coordinate them. All my acute angles are going to be one color. All my obtuse angles are going to be another color. So acute is A and B and D and this angle over here. I'm going to highlight all the angles that are acute. My obtuse angles are all of these angles. All the red angles are obtuse. They're greater than 90 degrees. So if I'm looking here, it asks me A and D. If I'm looking at A and I'm looking at D, what are they? Are they congruent or are they supplementary? So because they're both the same color and I see that they're both acute, that means they're going to be congruent. Because both are acute. Okay, then we got to look at C and E. Here's C, here's E. They're both red. So they're both red, they're both the same color. They're both going to be congruent. Because they both are obtuse. The next one talks about C and D. Here's C, here's D. C, D. Do you see how one's red and one's blue? One's red, one's blue. Because there's one of each color, one's acute and one's obtuse, that means they're going to be supplementary. They're supplementary because one is acute and 1 is obtuse. All right, so next we're going to find the actual measures of the angles. So what I do know is that this angle is 120 degrees. I also notice that is an obtuse angle. So I'm going to highlight all my angles that are obtuse. So all of these angles that are obtuse, they're the same measure as the 120. So that means angle 4 is 120, angle 5 is 120, angle 8 is 120. And we can just fill that in. So 4, 120 degrees, 5 is 120 degrees, 8 is 120 degrees. Then I see the other angles, so I see my acute angles. I'm going to highlight all my angles that are acute. So because I know these two angles add to 180, they're supplementary. One, because they're next to each other. This is called a linear pair, two angles that are next to each other. They add to 180. I can also see this is an obtuse and this is an acute angle. If it's an obtuse and acute, that means they add to 180. So for angle 2, I just do 180 minus 120, and I get this to be 60 degrees. So all my acute angles are 60 degrees. So angle 2, 60, 6, 60, 3, 60, and 7 is 60. Okay, let's keep going. So I got to find the value of x, then find the measure of angle LMN and show your steps. So I like to use my colors, so we're going to do the same thing, and I suggest you do the same as well. Okay? And so first thing I notice is this is an obtuse angle, this is an obtuse angle, here's an obtuse, here's an obtuse. Here's acute, 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 and acute. Okay, so I highlighted all my obtuse and acute angles. What I know is this angle is green and this angle is red. If I have a green and a red, that means they are supplementary. Okay, because remember, two different sizes, acute plus obtuse. So acute plus obtuse equals 180. So those two angles added together will equal 180 degrees. So my acute angle would be x plus 8 plus my obtuse angle, it's 118, is going to be 180 degrees. So we're going to add our like terms. So you get x plus 8 plus 118 equals 126. Subtract the 126. X equals 180 minus, oh, now we got to listen to an add. Okay, adds over. So 180 minus 126 equals 54. So x is 54. That doesn't mean my angle is 54. X is 54. Okay, so now I got to find the measure of LMN. So let's go find LMN. I'm just going to kind of erase my colors so we can see where LMN is. So L to M to N. That's this angle right here. So LMN is the x plus 8. X is 54. So you put in 54 plus 8. And if you need to pull out your calculator, 54 plus 8 is 62. So the measure of LMN is 62 degrees. All right, next it says, assuming the two lines are parallel, find the value of y. So once again, I'm going to color coordinate anything. He's obtuse, 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 obtuse. Acute, 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 acute. So what I know is I have this red angle up here that's obtuse, and I have this red angle down here that's obtuse as well. So because both of them are red, both of them are obtuse, that means they are congruent. Because they're both obtuse, that means they're congruent. They're equal. So I can say y squared equals 8y plus 20. The two angles are congruent, so we set them equal to each other. Now, if you notice, it's a y squared. So we should be thinking to ourselves, factor and solve. Okay, So our first thing about factoring is we need to set equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract my 8y and subtract my 20 to both sides. These guys cancel. The right side becomes 0. The left side becomes y squared minus 8y minus 20. Now we're going to look for our greatest common factor. We can see there isn't one in there, and we're just going to factor it like normal. So I get y, and the factors of 20. 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. So we have to figure out which set of numbers here gets me an 8. Well, I know 2 and 10 get me 8, so 2 and 10. But I need a negative 8. So in order to get a negative 8, I need a minus 10 and a positive 2. Always FOIL it back in to make sure you got it right. And I know we're right, so we're just going to move on. Now we're going to solve it. So I get y plus 2 equals 0. Subtract the 2. You know your y is equal to negative 2. Y minus 10 equals 0. Add 10. Y equals 10. All right, so it asked me to find the values of y, and we just did. Y can equal 10 or y can equal negative 2. You have two values for y in here. All right. That's it for this section.